You want him to go to the right, to the left. It's okay. Okay, we're on. Shinaza Okolo, welcome. Sorry guys, Akin Boboye, Akin today, welcome. Yeah, Mrs. Abiola is here, welcome. Toyi Toyi Olobayo, welcome. Francisca Mbuagua, welcome. Madubuko Kene Shuku, you're welcome. Precious Oliver, Adeshola Agbongiagwe, Reministic. Oh, that's been a while. Orenugar, Pastor Nero, Samuel Audu. Please go Olabola, Adeleke, Samuel Abayomi. Please, everybody, let's go and invite our friends. Welcome everybody, both those on YouTube and on Facebook. I hope the YouTube is on already. Okay, we are on Facebook already. We are going to fix YouTube now. So, okay, the YouTube is on as well. So please go call everybody else, both on YouTube and on Facebook. Go invite your friends. I'm so sorry for the late coming. I am 15 minutes late. You know, in this part of the world, if you are late for 15 minutes, the game is over. You are no longer, the meeting is off, it's cancelled. I don't know how it is where you come from, but in Russia, 15 minutes is the most deadline, or the most, whatever they call it, the most time you are giving, for you to be late. The very most. So it's 15 minutes. So I'm sorry, but we just came on right on 15 minutes. So nice to be here. But I have a legendary figure with me. Now, I've been out of Nigeria for 32 years. So I didn't really get to know this our respected gentleman when I was in Nigeria, because he was probably not as prominent that time when I was in Nigeria. I left 32 years ago, so I didn't know him that time. I didn't hear about him. And since I've been here, I've been busy doing my own thing here. More, so I've not been interested in Nigeria. I just took interest in Nigeria now in the past 1 or 2 years. So, but I've been hearing the name, Don Pedro Obaseki, but I never took interest who that was until 2 weeks ago, last month or 2 weeks ago, somebody sent me a video that Don Pedro did in his car, and Don Pedro was, he was talking to the Nigerian youth and the parents in regards to entertainment. There is a certain musician that he mentioned. He mentioned either Olamide or Olumide or somebody like that. Is it, what's the name?
Olamide.
Olamide, okay. So I don't know the guy, but I discovered from his words, I know that Olamide guy, there is something that is, I think people are trying to call him all the time. So those ping you are hearing, those are calls coming onto his phone. And how do we do that? How do we
you can keep...
Come. How does he take care of that?
Hello, hello? It's really...
Yes, I've turned the phone off.
Okay, thank you.
Is that the way to do it?
Yes, to turn it off first.
Okay. So I heard the speech of Mr. Pedro, and I said, I didn't even know that it was the one. I just saw the video, no caption. So I just said, who is this gentleman? So I sent it to some people to help me find out, who is this man talking. This man is talking sense. This is unusual for me to hear from Nigerians who are so forward thinking, I mean, and with foresight, that because normally, I mean, Nigerians will just be silent because we have a culture of silence. And, you know, so I said, who is this man? I must meet this man. I want to know this man. You know, this man is kind of different. He is actually talking about his concerns for the Nigerian youth in something that an ordinary Nigerian will not even see any danger in. That, oh, what is it about musicians? These are just musicians. I mean, these are just musicians having fun. People are just doing their video. So why bothered about that? But this man knows what he's talking about. So then I have a cousin, is it uncle, cousin? Uncle that of mine, a relative of mine in the UK that says, I know him, I will get him for you. I said, is that so? So I wanted to get Don Pedro last week, but it didn't. Was it last week or 2 weeks now? Last week we couldn't get to do it last week. But today, guess who is with me? Don Pedro Obaseki. This is one of the most. It was later on I discovered that you are actually a Nollywood personality. You used to be the president. Tell us about yourself, sir.
My name is Pedro Obaseki. I was born in Benin, in Edo State, and I went to school in Edo and Delta State and Ibadan. I have a PhD and a doctorate in business administration. I used to be a lecturer at the University of Benin, and I was one of the 4 people that started Nollywood. I was the pioneer president.
One of the four people?
Yes, myself, Amaka Igwe, Zebejiro, and Kenneth Nebwe.
Wow.
Maybe to a lesser extent, Oprah Williams. So I was the first president of Nollywood for about 8 years.
Wow.
And I was also into music. You know, I had 2 music labels. I had popular tracks, Ayamba, Zulezu, Kerewa, so, and some gospel tracks. So.
Does that mean that you sing yourself?
No. I just own studios. I own broadcast studios. I own a radio channel in Lagos, and I own a television setup also in Lagos.
What is the name of your radio channel?
We should be up live now, full live in another 2 weeks. It's called Biz FM, Business FM.
Business FM.
And, Biz FM, yes. And then we have Wawu as in Wawu TV, which is launching on the 1st of March as a multi-channel service.
That is very good. We are going to take you up.
Director of STAR, owners of AIT and Ray Power Television.
Director of AIT?
I was former managing director, yes.
For AIT and another one, what is did you mention another one too?
The company that owns AIT and Ray Power, and that company is Dark Communication.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yes, I was managing director. Yes. And so, I'm on the board of AIT.
You've been around for some time in Nigerian socio-political landscape.
Yes, sir. In fact, almost 2 years ago, I actually ran for governor of my state.
But I don't think they will allow people like you to win, is it? I have a friend.
They didn't even allow me to run.
Wow.
In fact, a few days to the primaries, big men went on and got INEC to get a court injunction to prevent me from running.
Wow. Because you are too dangerous, because you are too popular.
Pastors, bad men rule because good ones don't get involved. But the truth of the matter is, if you give room for Satan to play, there will be no room for any good man. Hence, in the Bible, when Abraham was having problems with Lot and Sodom, God said, "Show me just one good man." One good man. It just takes one man to change everything. So if we all close our eyes and allow those who are signed pacts with the devil to sell away the conscience of our nation, in another few years, it will be like an Abiku, a nation born dead. And we cannot continue to have that, And so I've told myself that since I have children growing up, the only way is to reorientate the youth so that they see that the nation they are in is a nation that they did not build. It's a nation that is being built by septuagenarians and very old men who don't understand how to use a mouse, who cannot speak on Skype, who don't use WhatsApp, so they don't know what is up, And I tell them, it's time for you to face your book. It's not just enough to be on Facebook. So if you face your book, you will realize that things that are happening in the Western world today had already happened in Nigeria. For example, let me give you an example, sir. They say Macron is just 39 and is the president of France. And I tell them, what is new there? Macron was 10 years older than Gowon when Gowon became head of state of Nigeria. This country had been ruled in its most difficult times by young men. And those young men have refused to leave the scene. Gowon is still alive. Buhari, for example, became governor of 6 states put together. The northeastern state, which is today's Yobe, Bauchi, Gombe, Borno, Adamawa, and Taraba, at the age of 32.
Wow.
He became president when he was 40. So almost 40 years later, we are still having that man as president. That is reverse osmosis. It cannot work that way. We must understand that Obasanjo in 1976, when he became head of state by accident, was 37. We must realize that Murtala Mohammed died at 38. So now, we have children who are 38, 39, still in their parents' house. The younger ones are busy fighting on how to get the next mocktail or drink paraga and hang or wear boxers and sag around, wearing sagging trousers. And I tell them in any of the youth forums I go, when you sag your trouser or you turn your face cap backward, it's a physical manifestation of the mental disposition of your mind. It shows that your brain is already turned the other way around, But yes, because by their actions we shall know them. You are sagging. The word alone shows you it is a demented state. Sag. It is sag trouser. It doesn't make sense. So, and our youth are today battling over the next meal. They are battling over how to feed when they should be feeding the nation. So we are left at the behest of, I don't need Obasanjo to write a letter for me to wake up as a day. I don't need him. No. That's how I found myself. So me today, I'm just like, I'm now 50. And they still call me youth. And I said, no, I not be youth. At 50, with 4 kids, I became an associate professor at 32. So I've been an old man for so long. So I don't want a situation whereby these men keep us in Saraki, our Senate president, for example, was just 12 or 13 years when his own father, Bukola Saraki, when his father, Abubakar Olushola Saraki, was the Senate leader who screened Audu Ogbe in 1979 for Audu Ogbe to be a minister under Shagari. 79. By next year, it will be 40 years. So 40 years later, Saraki, who was in his 12 years, 13, 14, is now in his mid-50s. 2 years ago, he had to screen that same Audu Ogbe to come back as Minister of Agric today. So we are like a nation, we are not in a standstill. We rewound ourselves. Nigeria is a nation on rewind. And we have to do. So when I heard about your program, I've watched a few of your videos. I almost wept the last time I saw it. Julie spoke to me, Wole Banjoko spoke to me. And I told myself, this is the kind of person I want to speak with. Somebody who has huge followership. Someone who, even though he's not in Nigeria, is passionate about youth empowerment and development. A situation whereby our kids are like kids who have missed the bus. We have to get them back on the bus of the nation so that they can drive it. Not just sitting at the back. They should be in the driving seat. I don't see any reason why anybody above 60 should rule this country.
But somebody is saying now in the comment section that even though they didn't allow you to rule, but it's a family affair because you have a good family and your family is a clan, and that it is your brother, you just step down for your brother to rule. That is still the same thing.
I think the person is being economical with the truth. My elder brother is the of my state.
Wow.
And as a result of that, I try to be as apolitical as possible so that I don't have to derail his own programs. He is there, you know. Somebody says, I believe in the Bible. Proverbs, I think Proverbs 6:13 or Proverbs 3:16 says, all rulers on the earth govern with my help.
Yes.
Princes, noble men alike. You know, God will choose a leader. What the leader does while being there is a different thing. God chose Saul. But Saul, along the line, derailed. So I feel if at that point, I was running for governor. My brother was also running, you know. So I did not step down. I was prevented from going ahead. You see, I told myself I must sacrifice my PDP-ness, my APC-ness, my personality-ness, my private-ness, my family-ness, for the upliftment of my Edo-ness and my Nigerian-ness. If we see that, if you believe inherently in yourself, let me give you an example. A very popular pastor in Nigeria, Paul Adefarasi. Paul runs a church in Nigeria. His younger brother runs a church just on the other side of the island. While Adefarasi, you know, I mean, there is nothing wrong. It is the people must be the recurring decimal, not a few people sitting behind the sanctuary of locked doors, under godfathers and godmothers and whatever. That thing God used the devil fathers and devil sons, you know, to change the arithmetic and of the nation. It's not done. Democracy is one man, one vote, and so that their votes count. So if I have an aspiration, and that aspiration is at variance with the aspirations of other persons, let all of us go to the field and try our popularity or the acceptance of our programs. So for me, being prevented to run was a sin against my soul. So, but I've taken it in good faith. Only one person can be governor at a time.
But people are writing now that you can still take over from him 8 years later.
You see, it is not for me to design for God. God has his own master plan. All of us are just pawns in God's bigger chessboard. You know, so in this one, the gods are not to blame. So if at the end of 4 years, 8 years, I am actually 11 years younger than my brother.
Okay.
So, yes, Brother Godwin is 60 going on 61. I'm 50. So, and I respect him as a human being. So the biggest respect I can give to him at this point is not to make him the epicenter of my discourse. So I just try to look at the problems that beset the nation. The problems of youth empowerment, problems of herdsmen, problems of Boko Haram, problems of old men who should be in serial retirement, who should be enjoying themselves within the sanctuary of their locked doors or taking care
Before we
of
talk about the whole nation, let's talk about Edo State. You are from Edo State. If you are trying to run, it means you still have some pain and some burden for Edo State. Now, I have a friend of mine who is from Edo State himself. His name is Arams Ibe. Now, Arams lived in Europe and America for so long, and he wanted to come back home to set up a farm. And you know, he had a lot of challenges. He had to come back to Europe now. And I asked him the same question. You know, when I was growing up in Nigeria 40 years ago, 50 years ago, I'm 52.
Small.
No, I'm 50. I will be 51 this year. So we are the same age.
We are 8
Yes. So, but that time when I was growing... Hello, sir. Are you there?
Yes.
Okay. When I was growing up in Nigeria, Edo, it used to be Bendel. You know?
Bendel.
Okay. So the Bendel state.
Bendel stands for Benin Delta.
Oh, okay. Now, the Benin Delta area used to be one of the best. Oh, is this another Edo? You are Edo, right? Yeah, come in. This is another pastor from Edo State. He is a pastor in Hungary. Come here. Let me show you to the world. You know who this is?
No.
This is Don Pedro Obaseki.
Okay, hello, sir.
Yeah. This is the one. So, great to see you. Join us. I want to ask a question about your state.
What is the name?
What's your name? Come and tell them what your name.
What's the name?
All right.
So, introduce yourself to the public.
I'm John Oni.
Speak louder.
I'm John Oni. I'm
John
from
Oni, okay.
Yes.
Where do you working?
Oh, yes, sir.
Is this one working?
Yes.
Where are you from?
I'm from Nisha.
Yes.
So we are speaking our language now.
Yeah?
But our languages are mutually intelligible.
But you are Edo now.
No, Edo is the state. Now, the southern part is Benin. The middle part is Esan. And the north is Akoko Edo, Owan, and Esako. But we all have a generally intelligible language. So I understand him. So when he says Obokian, he says Oboshan. If I say Woye, he will say Woye. So it's almost like the same.
Now,
he will say Aike, I will say Aike. So we are cool.
Now,
it's just tonal differences.
Okay. You know what happened?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, it's too much. Just come close back to me. Yeah, come close to me. Yeah, don't worry. So what happened was that when I was growing up 40, 50 years ago in Nigeria,
yes,
I'm from West. I'm from the West as well. I'm from Ogun State. So you know the way.
Are you Ijebu, Egba, or
I'm Ijebu. So, but Don Pedro, I'm sure since you study in Ibadan, from when you were very small, in the West, everything is about education.
Yes.
Now, but when I was growing up in the West, and we used to compete for federal universities, federal unity schools.
Yes.
The greatest competition used to come from Bendel people. So Bendel people were giving us trouble. But I'm talking intellectually.
Yes.
Now, so when I got admission to University of Ife in 1986, I scored the third best result in the university, but there was somebody from Cross River State that time, Cross River State. The second one was from Bendel, and I only managed to take number 3. So the Bendel people, they used to be top. But now, the only thing I hear about Edo, I don't know what is wrong with that place, though. They are like the sore and the disgrace of Nigeria right now. If it's not prostitution, it is one crime or the other, or 4-1. I don't know. I mean, the things I'm hearing about Bendel people now, I can't believe it. Is it the same people? What has gone wrong since I left Nigeria?
Power abhors a vacuum. You see, the average Edo and Delta man, is brilliant, naturally educated, resourceful. But when you create a vacuum in terms of provisioning for them, they will begin to look for extraneous ways to make that happen. That is what happened. In the late 80s and early 90s, because of the economic situation in Nigeria, ironically, Buhari then was also president, followed by Babangida. There was a mass exodus of persons from this place because there was no more self-fulfillment. It's a pity now that to contend with that today. But I think that is something that can be easily handled. When you try, people go abroad for different reasons. If you go to London, if you are in Peckham or Bristol or Southeast London, every time you speak, 20 people speak, at least 5 will be hearing Yoruba. But we don't hear the same kind
of stories,
intimidating news
yes,
about their migration to Europe. Now, 26, 27 of our girls a few months ago, last year, were said to have died in very gruesome circumstances. I put on Facebook that my soul has died. And the fact that our government, because they are children, don't have to go through this, they are silent. And silent is actually a form of acceptance of guilt. They are serially guilty for whatever is happening to the Edo nation. The Edo people, whether they are Esan, whether they are Esan, Esako, Bini, or one, wherever they are from, Akoko Edo, they need a systemic dismantling of the present state of affairs. They need to understand that Nigeria cannot continue to be premised on who is giving them 1,000 naira to vote. They need to understand that a bottle of beer in Nigeria is 250 naira. And you sell 4 years of your birth, of your collective commonwealth, to a person for 1,000 naira. That is for 4 bottles of beer. So when you do that, you stay back and the reciprocal repercussions. That is what is going down. There must be a seismic paradigm shift. There must be a seismic restructuring of the Nigerian state. There must be a change of mind. In fact, I put on Facebook once that for the Nigerian state to change, every Nigerian must change their state of mind. Yeah. And the fact that Igbo and Delta peoples forgot what brought us to where we were, outside of our natural resources. We have all the natural resources in Nigeria. We have all the climates in Nigeria, climatic conditions in Nigeria. Nigeria has made Mr. Dangote the richest African because of cement. And the whole of Edo North is the sitting bedrock of limestone. Now we who own it, we are living in abject rejection and penury. So you have to educate people properly. You have to move up their brain power. I keep telling my people that if you don't move up to the brain power of a people, you cannot move them up. To move the people forward, you must uplift their brain power. That is key. Now, we must also come back home and educate our parents, the elderly ones, who put all these children in this journey initial. I told somebody that what is the use of me going to Europe to speak to the Italian parliament? It's useless. Let me create a mass orientation program where I will be playing from village to village, city to city, hamlet to hamlet, videos of the debilitating effect of this transatlantic, trans-Sahara migration of our children. When they see them, you see, when you are conscious of the repercussion of an action, you are most likely not to commit it. They are not conscious of the repercussion. They are only seeing the end result. They don't care how they get there. So long as they get there, the end will justify the means. So when they see 1,000 kids perish in the Mediterranean while fighting to get to Sardinia, when they see kids being turned into slaves in the cities of Benghazi and in the city of Tripoli, seeing them walk through the Agadez desert, running on pure water and just a bottle of Coke for 1 week, they will understand, is this worth it? It is when you now realize that you can change them. But when you look at what is happening in Benin, the people who get employment, their take-home pay can't take them home. If we are living in a nation where people are paid 18,000 naira a month as minimum wage, 18,000 naira, $100 is 36,000 naira. So somebody gets $50 a month. Somebody gets 65 euro a month.
Now, Mr. Petro, I'm going to stop you at that because I personally believe that the problem is with the value system. And you are probably aware of that because that's why you are starting the radio station and the television station in Lagos. But why don't you, is it going to be nationwide television and radio? Because I personally think that the value system, okay, you told us in the beginning that the Yorubas, if you go to London, like if you see 100% of Nigerians, Yorubas will be 50% of them or 60% of all Nigerians there. Now, yes. But those Yorubas, they started traveling out and there are many also outside, not less than the Edo people. But you don't hear these stories about them.
Yes.
Okay, you said that, and that means that there is something, fundamentally wrong in some propaganda or some news that is going on in the Edo villages or among the Edo youth that is making them to believe. For example, like I said, the Yorubas are also traveling now, but they are not necessarily using the bush so traveling. Immigration is not the problem. But if our people are well informed and they have the right value system, they will travel. They will not use it. Okay.
Let me say this quickly. I have been opportune to live outside of this country.
Okay.
I'm an immigrant, but I was an intellectual immigrant. I've been a fellow at universities in the US, in Denmark.
Okay.
I have 4 kids, 1 born in London, 3 in the US. But the Yorubas have a different story.
Okay.
The Yoruba migration began as early as the time of Samuel Ajayi Crowther.
Yes.
By the time Ajayi Crowther translated the Bible into Yoruba, he must have known enough English, and he had been to Westminster. Yes. By then, the British had not even got into Benin. That was 6 years before the fall of Benin. But today, when you get into areas, I deliberately said Peckham in London. The Yorubas have lived there for the last 100 years. But that is a different, we didn't have a reason to travel because as at the time I was growing up, I was in secondary, I got into the university in 1983. And at that time, I was 50 kobo for 1 meal and 4 of us were sharing a chicken. So the economic environment was different. Today is a different ballgame altogether. And the reason I keep abusing for that, you see, I said power abhors a vacuum. So also does economic empowerment. So when people think that, we are victims, they begin to look for how to break the chain. Unfortunately, they are trying to break the chain. They enslave themselves in even worse. People listen. It's just like when you go to church on Sunday. I go to church, but the reasons I go to church might not be the reason every other person in Nigeria goes to church. People in my place, they go to church expecting miracles. Miracles. So you have more churches in Benin than in any part of Nigeria per square kilometer. So when people fall ill,
more churches in Benin.
Yes. When I say per square kilometer, if you
but it cannot be more than Lagos. It cannot be more than Lagos. It cannot be more than Lagos now.
Yeah. See, Lagos has 18 million people. Edo State has close to 4 or 5 million people.
Okay.
So per square kilometer, you have more people in Benin. In short, the traveling business in Edo today is open a church. And you find different, you've not seen churches, my brother. Come to my state. That is the truth. People, instead of going to the hospital when they are sick, they go to church. And Karl Marx had once said, he said, religion is the opiate of the masses. But that does not mean we shouldn't go to church. It only means that people are going for it and going to it for the wrong reasons. Now, as a result of I use the word debilitating economic and the debilitating educational environment, people are not tutored, people are not schooled enough to understand that what you are embarking on is going to set you back 10, 20 years. So if you are conscious of that repercussion, you are most likely not to travel. My father was trained in Wrexham in Wales, and ironically, in the Ukraine, under a USS Arrow scholarship in Kiev. So he didn't travel for the reasons these kids are traveling. So the difference is there. It's ominous, but it's there. So what I beg the state government and, of course, the larger Nigerian nation to do is not to carry out those campaigns on Facebook. It's not to carry out those campaigns on WhatsApp. It's not enough. It's not enough to specify on television. I just believe that there is a need to do guerrilla reorientation. Go from town to town, from Okpoji to Ujuelen to Ekpoma to Uromi. Show them videos. Show them the repercussion of these actions. Show them that our children are dying. If they see this, they most likely will not put their own child on that trail. That is what I think we should do.
Okay, now you said something about church as well. I personally believe that the value system of a nation and a people is formed by 4 institutions. Number 1, the family.
Yes.
Number 2, the church.
Yes.
Number 3, educational system. And number 4, the media. Now, but when we talk about church in Nigeria, I personally have started a campaign and a war against the kind of church that is being practiced in Nigeria right now. I am a pastor myself, but I have started a crusade against the kind of church. Because your state, I think your state, Chris Oyakhilome is from your state?
Yes.
Yeah, Chris Oyakhilome is from your state. Now, that guy, he has started, I mean, he's a brilliant guy. Smart. But what he has started, what that guy has started, he's supposed to use it to resurrect his state, his people, to empower his people. But the guy is taking money from the poor people. He's robbing the whole nation. He has maybe 1 million people in Nigeria. All of them are feeding him. He's going to America to give 1 million to Benin, to give 400 million to that, and he's going to South Africa to build something. The guy is sick. Why Nigerians, his church members cannot eat? The guy has lost it. And then I think this guy is from your state also. Is Suleiman from your state?
Yes.
And these are supposed to be men of God?
Let me say.
I need to talk to them. Somebody needs to talk to them. They are the ones who are supposed to educate them.
Sorry, I'm not scared to talk to them or talk about them. I was opportune a few weeks ago to speak at a pastor who became 50. And I told him the problem of the Nigerian nation, particularly the southern part of the Nigerian nation, is the failure of the church. The modern Nigerian church is a serial business where they only think about their return on investment. I told the government has no right not to tax a church that solicits for funding.
Yes. Yes, excellent.
I also told them that the Bible said clearly, Jesus did not tell me to pay tithes. Jesus told me that for me to go to heaven, I should do one simple thing. He said, whatsoever you do to the least of my brethren.
Yes.
When I was hungry, you gave me to eat.
Yes.
When I was thirsty, you gave me to drink. And the question says, now enter the gates of my Father. So that is very clear. So if people decide to go and give their wealth to churches, it is their personal.
No. Because the churches are brainwashing. The churches are brainwashing them.
No, let me explain. Why I said that is simple. When I make a purchase in a supermarket, whatever I pick off the shelf is a choice I make. And when you do simple economics, for every choice I make, there is an opportunity cost. So if you decide, I will not give my money to pastors because they are not the least of my brethren. A pastor who has a private jet is not the least of my brethren. And he does not follow the Jesus I follow. Because the Jesus I follow saw a private jet. Let's put it this way. He saw chariots and saw horses and rode on a donkey. So, and the same Jesus I follow walked into the temple in Jerusalem and saw that they are doing bazaars and thanksgiving and whatever, and selling things at hyphenated prices. And he told them, for thou hast turned my father's house into a den of thieves. So if you decide to give your money to a Pharisee who is dressed as a Pentecostal modern-day adventurist pastor, it is your kettle of fish. But don't come to my doorstep, because I'm only interested in a man who cannot feed. I'm only interested in that boy who cannot afford 800 naira for his WAEC school fees. For now, I grew up in Benin, where the best of churches provided the best of education. In Lagos, most of those who rule us today went to CMS. They went to St. Finbarr, St. Gregory. In Benin, in Esalan, we had Annunciation College, Irua. We had Immaculate Conception College. These people, the church provided the best of education. Today, churches have universities that does not even allow tithe-paying members who saw reading backs built those universities. So for me, I know those who will go to hell. I can tell you that. I don't know whether I will go to heaven, but I know those who will go to hell, and many of them are pastors in Nigeria.
But you had said it that it's information that we need to go when it comes to trafficking.
Many of them know. I won't lie to you. When I say many, I don't mean the pastors. Many of the church people know. But you see, when you have no hope and you have a government that dispenses hopelessness, the church now becomes the bastion of hope. The church becomes a Kalu, becomes Gambo, becomes New York lottery, becomes a new way of, let me try my luck for this church. So when you watch on television, I also, at the time, I had to write to the Nigerian Broadcasting Commission when I was a consultant to the National Broadcasting Commission that they should stop licensing religious channels, because you cannot be on television showing miracles at the National Stadium. People are throwing away their whatever. Meanwhile, the next day at that same National Stadium, cripples are there. So people are using the media to create a mass disinformation and misinformation of the larger public. So it's the duty of the Nigerian Broadcasting Commission to sanction them. So government has its role. Why are you clapping?
Because I've never had any, I don't know that there are human beings like you who see things the way they are in that country. Because it's overwhelming what is happening. It's disheartening. When you live in Europe and you see what they call church in Africa, I mean, even people who are not Christians here, who are not born again, who are atheists, they even know better.
Let me tell you something, sir. Don't be offended. In the United Kingdom, about 7-8 years ago, one of our major churches in Nigeria, I don't know whether it will be libelous to call his name, well, it is in the public domain. KIC, that is
Matthew.
Imolowo's house was not too far away from where I used to live at Newham. And I was standing outside when the police moved in to shut down his place for fraud. You get my point? A Nigerian church. You know, I used to do stuff with a few of them when they started out, Zoe Ministry, even the synagogue, producing programs for them. So I understand what these people are up to. I understand the sheer shenanigans of what they are up to. And it pains me that those who should know see the church as a way of, okay, let me stratify you how church is in Nigeria. The very wealthy go to church just to flaunt their wealth, sit in golden seats on the front pew. They won't sit at the back. The governor of Lagos State, the wife only last year, got them to sack the chaplain of the State House Chapel because the State House chaplain did not give her first the Holy Communion. And the man was thrown out in Nigeria. So it is crazy. Now the second tier are church workers. Nigeria is the only place where people voluntarily work full-time for a church and go home without pay. The church workers don't get paid. And yet every Saturday or every Sunday, they aggregate things. Nigeria is the only place where churches run every day of the week. The Bible says walk and pray. It did not say pray and walk. The Bible says, show me a man who is diligent in his work. He will eat with kings. He shall not dine with mean men. How can you be diligent in your work when you don't go to work? Nigeria is the place where people run church programs on a Wednesday morning. Nigeria is a place where churchification has taken over Christianity. So the church is a huge behemoth. The church in Nigeria owns shares in Nigerian breweries. The church in Nigeria owns banks. The church in I'm not lying. And these are not small churches. These are massive churches. The church in Nigeria is the biggest landowner. The church, I told somebody, I don't have problems with, I wish Nigerian churches would just be like a mosque. In a mosque in Nigeria, whether you come first or come last, now where you reach, now you go kneel down. There are no chairs safe. Now mat everybody go kneel down. In Nigeria, the churches create golden pews. The churches stratify things based on social status. While the poor hoi polloi, the wretched of the earth, the talakawas who will pay the tithes, are sitting at the back. They can barely hear the pastor. Some of them, the church is so big, the pastor will help them by providing widescreens for them to just see him and go home feeling fulfilled. It is the most fraudulent. I don't know. Is it one? Don't let's go to churches. I just tell Nigerian youth to read the Bible. Because a man who does not understand the Bible is a walking dead. Because Christ has said it clearly. He said, my people perish for lack of knowledge. So there is nothing that is not in the Bible. Read it. Tell yourself the truth. And don't live on the string or F1 string of an Chris is okay. When I was younger, we were all in the thing with him. I used to attend the YFC when he started in Benin. It is Youth for Christ. That was where it started. Before, when I was in final year, in 1986-87, we changed it to BLW, Believers Love World, which gave birth to Christ Embassy. I've known him all my life. His uncle used to live off my street, and on my street in church, where he used to practice. It was Assemblies of God Church. And Papa Oyahilome, my uncle built a temple for him, the Oyahilome Temple, on Ekewan Road, a massive 1,000-hall theater, because the man was so poor. He died an ordinary preacher. Those are men of God, men who were sent by God. But you see, again, nature abhors a vacuum. So the Pentecostal churches of today, I told somebody, the white garment churches, the Aladura, Redeem was an Aladura church. People don't even know. When Pa Akindayomi founded the church, before he handed over to Papa Enoch Adeboye, it was a white garment church in Ebute Metta. It was changed by Enoch Adeboye to a Pentecostal church, seeing what was being done by Benson Idahosa. Today that has changed the whole ethos of the church. Same thing with winners. All of them are practicing a brand of capitalist churchism.
Yeah, it is syncretism. It is syncretism what they are practicing. I will actually say it is a neo-paganism.
I think I would take neo-paganism because I tell them that they worship Mephistopheles, the Satan's lieutenant. That is what they worship. Because Christ is not there. Half of them don't even preach about Jesus, because when they talk about Jesus, whatever they will say, we negate the things they do. So to force you to pay tithes, they quote Malachi. They won't quote Matthew, Mark.
They won't quote Jesus. They won't quote New Testament.
No, because Jesus never once mentioned tithes. Not once. He never told me to pay. It he had, he gave away. When people could feed, he turned 5 into 5,000. Jesus never told. Jesus gave. Nigeria never give. They take. And they take so serially and stupendously. They are like Alibaba and the 40 thieves. That is what they are. Nigerian churches need a Robin Hood. Someone who will come, clean up the audience table. You see, when you are empowered economically, you will not think about a miracle spewing church. If I, Pedro Saro, am going for Baseki, I went to school, I can fend for myself. God has told me that if I work with my hands and I follow the things He has told me in Deuteronomy 28:1, He said, if I follow what He has put before me this day and follow it diligently, He shall set me first amongst all nations of the earth. So my pastor comes next. He's not coming first. So some people will start their church. Let me give you an example. I think it has something to do with Uncle Christo at the time. That somebody stole money at Sheraton Hotel and went and deposited that money in what he said was tithing, and he was defended. That is crazy. That is crazy. The churches fall our hand. I won't lie to you. So and our churches are involved in importation of arms. We saw what happens to the guy in Warri with the Jerry calls. We cannot continue like that. That cannot suffice anymore. Those days must be confined to the dung heap of yesterday. Nigeria must move forward. But to move Nigeria forward, we must change our state of mind. To move the people forward, we must move their brain power upward. If their brain power is up, I swear down, sorry I use that word swear, they will not forget the economic realities and give their money to a pastor whose prayer will not any dividend. That is the truth.
But Jesus was not taking from people. He was actually doing miracles to feed and give to the people.
I think there's one old song we used to sing when I was small. He said, anywhere he went, he was doing Almighty healer. He healed that leper. The leper had no money to give. He raised Lazarus. The man was dead. Jesus gave and dined with the wretched of the earth. And when he saw the prostitute, he said, if you want to, please cast the first. Rejected anybody. The Nigerian church will not allow you sit in front because you are not a Dangote or an Okudola. And I told them, I don't know those who will go to heaven, but I know those who will go to hell.
Okay.
And on that front pew, I'm a Nigerian church pastor. Sorry, I'm saying this. I didn't know if you talked to this. Sorry.
Okay. Okay. Thank God you came close and that is good. Now, one more question.
I didn't conclude that. Just this light.
Oh, wow! But we are still hearing you well. One more area we must touch before you go is that you are a stakeholder in Nollywood. But Nollywood, why is it that it is witchcraft, as if Nigeria is a country of witchcraft? Waiting they happen.
But that is the old Nollywood. I think the modern Nollywood, they don't do any witchcraft anymore.
Okay.
The truth of the matter is some of us had to get the census board as at that time to slam down on those ritualistic, witchcraft-free. Every mother-in-law is a wicked mother-in-law.
Yes.
Every problem had to go to a dibia or go to a babalawo.
Yes.
So, but those things are changing now. The modern ones that they are doing, we are even now scared, is taking a different turn. They are celebrating. They think everybody should do a movie that looks like a movie out of Brooklyn or a movie out of the back streets of Chicago. Everybody wants to kill somebody for something. The children are on tramadol and codeine. There's a new song I just said only yesterday outside of the Olamide one. That one has Tiwa Savage, and it says, I'm on a codeine diet.
Wow.
Yes. I just said, what is going down? So Nollywood has a major role to play. I'm happy now that most of them now have gone into comedies because that makes people laugh. Because you laugh that you may not cry, because the nation is so dead that the only way to maybe celebrate our Nigerianness now is to at least look at all the positive things around us. We are the happiest people on earth. And that is what is saving us thus far, so far. And I think if we begin to hamper on those positives, I don't want to care whether whether DSA is Ogun or Oshun. I don't want to care whether it's from Iragbeji or Ikirun. I don't want to care whether Pastor Oni is from Benin or whether it's Esan. So long as it just brings value and aids the upliftment of the average Nigerian, all of us should celebrate that person. Nigerians should celebrate themselves as much as possible. Should not celebrate the worst of us, because they are already in the problem. Because the good ones never want to get involved, the educated ones are too scared to be in politics. We have legislated our future away to the worst of us. So those who were the guys with top class or who never finished secondary school are the ones who had the guts to go into politics. So today, the worst of us are ruling the best, and the rest of us are making laws that none of us can run away from. That must change. And I think Nollywood and the Nigerian music and comedy industry and the Nigerian television industry has a humongous role to play in changing this narrative. And that narrative must be changed so that Nigerians can wake up and do something. We are going to elections very soon, and people are coming up with old narratives, coming up with divisive tendencies. Those things shouldn't fly as at this 21st century. These are 20th century vestiges that we should put in the back burner of yesterday. So I am willing, anywhere, even if I told my wife, honey, please, anytime we don't have money and I have to go on some of these my trips, don't worry, God will provide. Feed them with what you have. But if we don't do this, there will be no Nigeria in another 20 years for our children to come back to. That is my driving force. I cannot be president. I cannot be, because I am also smart enough to know that politics is a game of numbers. And the game of numbers will not bring a president from New Benin or from Esa or from Esako. I know that. But we must create a Nigeria. I'm also the president of and the convener of the Midwest movement. That is just like you have your Afeni Ferry, the one for Edo and Delta. And I keep telling them that we must change the narrative of our people by pushing the education of our people, by confronting the churches, by confronting the government, not challenging them, confronting them with hard facts and truths, so that they can begin to see that to sit down and do nothing, to quote Olarotimi, is to cripple fast. And we will not cripple this nation. We will not let those who are too old to rule this nation to cripple this nation. I believe Buhari has no business in government, because the Nigerian nation already has a civil service charter, which says that at the age of 60, you are too old to rule in an office. So they retire you. If you are a judge at 65, professor at 65, you compulsorily retire, because you should have done enough by then. Then we are now having people in their 60s and 70s and 80s who are closer to their graves than to their reality, ruling us, staying up late nights. They cannot. Let me explain something. When we are growing up and our fathers used to do something wrong, we just say, Daddy don't they old, Baba don't they old. That is old age be this. But they are in the same age bracket as Buhari in 76 or so, which he says he doesn't even know, although Obasanjo says he's more 78 or 80 than 76. So if at that point we have a septuagenarian, I told people Nigeria is a gerontocracy, a government by old men, fostered by old men to the benefit of old men. So the youth don't have a decimal in their arithmetic. That must stop. That must change. And that will not change unless Nigerians change their state of mind. Sorry, my NEPA don't go. God bless Nigeria, NEPA don't go.
So what is there? How do we change the narratives and to I came across something in the US that in the US of the 30s, 40s, and 50s, their Nollywood was mainly producing films to educate the nation how to be a good husband, how to be a good husband, how to be responsible, how to, to be a good student, how to dress, how to even wash your teeth, how to comb your hair, those are the educational things they were doing mainly. And that is why we have the America that we have today, where everybody is polite, they treat people well, they respect. Those things were, they were taught through using the Nollywood, through the national television. How can we change our own Nollywood to an instrument of propagation and dissemination of values, right values that will bring about development, civilization, and rather than just entertainment? We can still entertain people and bring about values. We could still package those values in a way that people will like it, but instead of just copying what Nollywood is doing now, or copying things that are not, is there any way to influence them to orientate on values?
I was speaking to a group a few months ago, a group of youth entertainers, and I told them that when you do a film and that film has no Nigerian flag, it has nothing to show the respect that every Yoruba man has. You see, when you see a Yoruba girl, she doesn't know you, but once she sees you, she just Ekaroma. She says it naturally. Those things should be imbued in our films. But one of them got up and told me, sir, which country am I propagating? In America, Americans want to shoot a film about the White House. The White House will give the design of the White House to the filmmaker. Americans will crime in America. Immediately a crime happens, the New York Police Department on American films. But in Nigeria, if you take a camera to the airport, the Nigerian police will arrest you. If you put the national flag, the Nigerian police will arrest you. And I asked the police once during a session, how can I showcase a nation, the tourism potentials of this nation, when I cannot even put my camera to show the gateway to our nation? The airport is the gateway to Nigeria. When you see the Champs-Élysées, it's Paris. When you see the Tower of London, this is London. When you see big plane, nobody tells you. In Nigeria, you put a camera on Ted Milan Bridge, which is a marvel, and engineering marvel, the longest bridge in Africa over water, 11.5 kilometers. Nigerian government will arrest you. So there must be a reorientation of everybody. The government, the followers, the artist. The artist must understand that they are a conscience of society. Like I told them, you are a concave or a convex mirror of society. No, don't mirror society like a plate. You must tell us either you are shrinking it or you are blowing it out of proportion so that we can have lessons to learn. Why are you telling me about the things I already know? Why don't you show how Nigeria ought to be rather than celebrating the worst of us? America does not celebrate their bestiality, but everybody thinks Boko Haram. Many people die in New York in a day than Boko Haram kills in a year. That is the truth. People get more killed in Chicago than they do in the whole African continent in a year. But they don't display that. They display their best. They use it to orientate their people. So there must be a deliberate schematic where the Nigerian government will not be lying to us through Lai Mohammed. They should be telling us the truth so that we can uplift our Nigerianness. This is key. Like I told somebody, if any presidential candidate, whether on PDP, APC, we don't care, comes out in 2019 and does not commit to restructuring this nation along ethnic, educational, and economic lines, we should campaign vigorously to throw such a person out. That is the truth. And when you come to equity, you must come with clean hands. We must see what you have added or what you intend to add to the Nigerian Commonwealth. Because we are the greatest country God has created. Any country that works when things don't work. Imagine how that country will work when things work. We are a nation that God work when things don't work. We are the only nation that people spray money in parties when the banks are on strike.
Well, you know what I'm going to do? What I'm going to do? I have people, sir. I have people watching from every continent of the earth, and I'm sure some of them would like to call in. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to ask them. Come and sit close. I'm going to ask them to call in. And hello, if you guys want to call in, the way to call in is go to Facebook Messenger, Move Agents. Some of you know how to call in. Please call in right now to Facebook Messenger, Move Agents, and you can call in right now. You can begin to call in, and or write in or call in, and so that is now. Don Pedro, another question is this. They are saying, but you campaigned for Buhari in the last election, according to the information that's getting to me, that you are in support of Buhari. Why did you support Buhari? You are in his party, but now you said he doesn't have any business being in government.
Those persons are economical with the truth.
Okay.
I support Buhari in the last government. I will not tell you what I did, but I was the only one in the APC, at least in Lagos, who vehemently campaigned against Buhari's presidency.
Wow.
I won't tell you on this open forum what I did. When I finish, I will send you a link of what I did. And everything I told Nigerians in February 2015, many people, I had to take my children out of Nigeria so that they don't kill me or kill my kids.
Wow.
And today, many people go to that same material. Today, it is the most worst 1 hour of Nigeria online. It has close to today, the thing I did to warn Nigerians about Buhari. Because at the age of 70, I don't expect anybody to change. The rain may be the leopard, but it will not change his spots.
Yeah.
You get my point? What I did in 2015, it was unsolicited.
But what I would say though, what I personally campaigned for Buhari myself. And the reason I campaigned for Buhari was that I knew that Jonathan needed to be outed. Jonathan, yes.
Jonathan got this nation to where it is today by default.
Yes.
Jonathan got us here by default. But I don't also blame him. I told a friend that Jonathan did not even promise Nigerians anything.
Yes.
Jonathan came to power based on good luck for you, good luck. They just sang a song, good luck for me, good luck for everybody. That was his campaign slogan. But I can tell you,
yes, but
today,
I personally think,
Pedro,
yes.
I did not.
I personally think that if Jonathan had remained in power, the Nigerian situation would have even been worse. So I think that the fact that the change came, that APC came, was still better than what we had during Jonathan.
That is just a feeling of yours. There is nothing empirical to back that up.
Okay.
When I say empiricism,
you're talking about facts and evidences.
Any of us that say that now, we are only saying that because we did not expect this kind of change.
Okay.
That is just the truth. You see, I told people that Nigerians didn't care what they were changing to. We just wanted to change. Because Jonathan was president for 5 years and 2 months. That is the truth. 5 years and 1 year and 2 months of Yar'Adua and 4 years of his own. And those times, the degree of belief in a pre-Jonathan president.
Sir, we have a call.
Yes, good evening, yes, Don Pedro.
That's Wale Banjoko. That's my brother that got you, that set up this one.
Hello, good evening.
Yes.
Don Pedro, yes, good evening.
He's hearing you.
I am so happy that this interview is ongoing. I don't know why it was. I guess the Holy Spirit that told me that this union needs to happen. I am watching a little bit of the discussion, and I just thank God for it. I think it's very informative both for us as the audience, and also I can see the exchange between both of you. I mean, I just felt it when I saw Don Pedro's video that went viral. that this was a gentleman that needed to be, that you guys needed to get to know each other. From the body reaction, from the everything, I mean, it's a very powerful interview. I think I am seeing so many people requesting for a part 2 already.
Yeah, they said everybody is writing that I should invite him back again.
Yeah, so I thank God for just the opportunity to be able to bring two very sharp minds together to rub minds, and also it's all an attempt for our future, our country to move forward, where we can leave a good legacy for our children. So
thank you.
I need to call it and say thank you to both of you, and I believe this is the beginning of something even greater to happen for the nation of Nigeria as a whole.
Thank you so much, Wale, for calling. Thank you so much. Appreciation. Now, we have over 7,000 people that were watching us. So, but I'm sure other people might want to call in as well. So, but they want you to come back, sir. Is there a way for us to be able to arrange in the future to get you back so that NEPA will not take light also?
No, that in fact, I will make sure I will be sitting in my studio because they will take light there. And I think Morayo and Julie can always
arrange it.
Handle that.
Yes.
Julie chased me around this world.
Yeah, they are trying their best.
In fact, I'm actually surprised at the degree of followership that you have garnered. And I pray to God that you will be able to use this your platform to the collective good of Nigerians and to the corporate good and togetherness of this country. Because we are better together as the 12 tribes of Israel. We are better together bonded. Because going separately we will be broomsticks.
Yes.
But Nigeria is a variegated color of the rainbow. We are everything Africa has. There is no tribe kind of person, no climate in Nigeria that is not in every part of Africa. And if you look at the Nigerian map, if you turn Africa into upside down, if you look like a gun, and Nigeria is the trigger. We are just at the trigger of Africa.
Wow.
So Nigeria.
Just a minute, sir. We have a call. Hello?
Hello, sir.
Oh, yes, who is calling?
Yes, sir. This is Paul.
Paul from India.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Wow, I am so happy, sir. This is the first. I guess this is the first or second time I'm hearing from Don Pedro. I am not so sure, but I doubt if I have heard any Nigerian speak this much since in a long time.
Yes.
And it totally blew me away.
I mean, can you believe it? He is speaking as if he is the bishop, as if he is the archbishop.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be teaching the pastors. I mean, pastors,
yeah.
He knows what is the right thing to do. And the pastors and GOs and apostles, it's the opposite. It's like they are coming from Hollywood and Don Pedro is coming.
Sir, I have two points to make. One contribution and one question.
Yes.
Okay, my first contribution will be, where did we put people that have this kind of brain in our country? And we are suffering. My heart is broken that our country has people like you, people like Don Pedro in our country who are citizens of our country, and we have them locked up somewhere in Nigeria, locked up somewhere in Europe, in Asia, in America, and our country is in the same situation it is now. I was born in 1980, sir. A lot of people of your age, of your generation, you guys benefited from scholarship, you guys benefited a lot from Nigeria. But people of my generation, people that were born in late 70s to early 90s, we are the victim. We are the victim of the situation of Nigeria. We have suffered too much. And I believe that it's because probably your parents, people, the generation of your parents, they took Nigeria with levity. they allowed the things that happened in Nigeria to happen because everybody kept quiet. They say it is none of their business. And just like a lot of Nigerians are saying, it is none of my business right now because they can take care of their own kids. They can take care of their own family. They are thinking that the small success that they have enjoyed, that is success. But unfortunately, everywhere you go today in the world, they will still point out to you that you are a Nigerian. They will point out to you and look at you and look down on you because you carry the green passport. So I say it's painful for me, sir, that we have people like you, people like this Don Pedro. I am totally blown away. All right?
Yeah.
I'm totally blown away that we have people like him coming from Edo. I am surprised, honestly.
Thank you.
Feel like,
Thank you so much, Paul. But Pedro, that is why Pedro decided to run for governorship of his state. And he said a thing, very, very interesting thing that one of the American presidents said. I think that, when the good people keep quiet, that is why evil prospers. So that's why he has decided to also, step out into politics as well. So, but hello, sir. They want you to say something about the fact that, because it's true what he said. I enjoyed scholarship. I got Nigeria scholarship from Nigeria, and that's what took me out. I was able to study outside. But he said their generation didn't have anything. But, what will you say to that, Don Pedro?
I think we can go back to that Nigeria. Because what happened was because of our own generation, like the generation of myself, DSA, Wole Banjoko, and co. Our generation, we were taught not to interfere. We were taught to pursue our own personal happiness because our parents did not understand the new Nigeria we were entering. That has to change. That has to change drastically and quickly. And then the younger ones must be involved. They must take the destiny of their future in their own hands. They must take their own destiny in their hands. I used to quote one of my favorite quotations. Power is not given. Power is taken. And when power is unchallenged, it becomes legitimate. Because we have never bothered to challenge the power of the gerontocrats, that is the government of the old, by the old, for the old, with the old, they think it is legitimate. It is not. Obasanjo owes this nation a debt. I don't. But I own Nigeria more than he does. Yeah. Because if we lose what Nigeria we still see, by God's grace.
We have a call, sir.
If I live to be 80, I still have 30 years ahead of me.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening. Who is calling?
This is Mr. Skimmich calling from Amsterdam.
Amsterdam, okay.
Yes, I just, Don Pedro, good evening, and I want to tell you that I'm so very, very happy as an Edo-lite, seeing that we still have such a corporate and a very, very intellectual person of your caliber in that state. And I pray that you keep on keeping on like you are doing. And also, we want to see you in the next coming up election. But I have a question for Don Pedro, please.
Okay.
My question for Don Pedro is this, and I also want him to be very, very honest about this question. As someone from Edo State, we have been hearing a whole lot of rumors about the present governor of Edo State, Obaseki. People have been coming up like he's actually not doing anything as a state governor at this very moment. And he happens to be a younger brother to the present governor of Edo State. I want to ask him, due to look of things, and he also lives in Edo State, can he at least address very many of us as Edo-lite that are online this evening watching this very program? Let him tell us a little bit about his brother so far in power. At least he must have definitely seen what his brother is doing. Is he going to carry Edo State to a better place, or is still going to be another 8 years of past governor like Oshomole or Lucky Binedio and the rest of them all? At least let him advise all of us now that are even planning to come back home to cast our...
Okay, wait.
That is my question.
Wait, let him answer you. Just a minute.
I will be very frank. My
Sorry. Start again, sir. Start again, sir.
I said Oten means my brother, Oremi. I'll be very straight with you. Those who know me know that I have a popular saying. I will translate. It is here this man fought bravely and died. It is more honorable than to say this is where this man saw fight and ran into the bush. I will tell you what I know about Brother Godwin. Brother Godwin is maybe one of the most intelligent people to have been voted into office in Edo State as a human being. But you see, personal intelligence does not necessarily translate into capacity to move people forward. You see, I keep saying to myself that for him to succeed, he must forget that he is the APC man. He must see himself as the governor of all Edo, who just happens to be an APC man. Because APC will come and go. PDP will come and go. His Edo-ness will remain. And what will be his position when that Edo-ness faces him in the face? So it is better for him. I feel if I was governor, I will bring on board everyone who I believe will be able to get our people out of his present lacuna. I read when they said he signed a banning open grazing at night. But the funny thing is, cattle don't graze at night. So you are banning what does not even exist. Don't you get it? 2 weeks ago, the Edo State government just banned grazing of cattle at night.
Okay.
Cattle don't ever even graze at night. The cattle sleep. Cows have manu, they sleep for night. When it should be banning them from walking into our feet. So I see him as a man whose hands are tied. I see him as a man who is brought into a space and his hands are tied. You throw a man into a boxing ring and you tie his hands behind his back. It's going to be difficult withstanding the pugilism from the other party. The Godwin I know as a human being, I can score. But I cannot score Godwin the governor. Because Godwin the governor is a different human being from Godwin the person. I can tell you without missing words. There is no book I have written since 1987 when I wrote my first book that I will not pay respect to Brother Godwin Obaseki. No one. But today, as I like 2 days ago, I was driving around Benin and I saw the humongous failures of the Oshomole administration, particularly the stormwater project. It's
some
crazy.
people are calling. More people are calling. Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello, good evening, DSA.
Who is calling?
Good evening, Don Pedro.
Yes.
Good evening. I can say I followed you people, though I didn't start from the beginning of today's discussion, but I joined along the line. And believe me, today's discussion is mind-blowing. I'm very, very elated, very, very happy to have joined the discussion with one of the most person. I think from today onward, I will begin to respect Don Pedro for this. And I suggest that, which I also feel that this is the kind of discussion that most of the younger youth need. Like most of our younger Nigerians, this is the kind of motivational talks they need, that if they have access to, I think, their mindset will be changed and the power of their brain is going to step up.
Yeah.
And I would advise that he should not just stop this way from here. He should continue to take it to a higher level. And I believe that as he continues to do that, the Lord is going to be his strength, and the Lord is going to also be our strength in order to ensure that this value system we are pursuing, this change of mindset that we want to see in the lives of the younger Nigerians, will be achieved.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I know that Don Pedro has a lot to talk about, but we will do, some people are... Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
It's good that we also, I don't want to leave here without thanking you, because I never knew a platform like yours did exist. Even I would have even begged to be on it. I'm shocked at the followership, because people don't follow you if you have nothing to offer. I want to thank you that God is using you at this juncture in our history. Like a John the Baptist, like an online John the Baptist. You may not understand the import of what you are doing today, but I can assure you that if we continue like this, if there are people like you, I told you at the beginning, if just one good man is what God says should change the entire arithmetic of Sodom and Gomorrah, one good man, it is the absence of that one good man that they perish. Please, sir, continue to be that one good man. Even if all Babylon fall, just stay on the good and narrow path. You may not be rich. You may not be where they will come at you with all sorts. They will come with litigation, wahala, fights, lies, serial dismemberments. They will come. But the Bible says clearly, as they come, 10,000. It said 10 shall fall by the side, and another 10,000 shall fall by your right hand.
Amen.
That is the way we can push this nation forward. Thank you, sir.
Beautiful. We have other callers, but people are also suggesting that we will make this a continuous something. So I'm going to suggest to Julie, maybe Julie could make it once a month kind of thing. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes. My name is Leke.
Yes, sir. Calling from where?
I'm calling from the United States, Maryland, the United States.
Maryland. Can you speak louder, sir? Speak into your mic.
Okay. Okay, yes, I'm calling from the United States, Maryland, the United States.
Yes.
Yes, I came across your video, and I'm glad I did come across it.
Okay.
You have taught some very pertinent issues, and I thank Don Pedro for his insight into his meaningful insights into the situation of the country.
Yes.
But I come from a very different approach, and my approach is that we have a systematic problem in the country, not a leadership problem, and the system breeds the wrong type of leadership. So to speak, it is our laws, it is our beliefs and our value system that are causing us the biggest problems that we have today. We have all the resources, the human resources, natural resources, everything. And at the end of the day, when I say value system cuts across religion, education, and some of the things that we believe in. A large amount of us are still superstitious.
Yes.
A large amount of us are still outrightly religious without putting logic before reasoning.
Yes.
And this goes a long way at making things better in the country. Say, for instance, but the first time, as with anybody, Don Pedro said he has lived in the United States. The very first time I stepped into this country, I was shocked beyond what we've seen in the movies and on TV and everything. I was shocked, as since I've been here for 1 second, electricity has not blinked, water supply has not been cut short, and it's not because we do not have the things to power these things, to provide these things in our country. It is because of a systematic problem. The Nigerian elite, the Nigerian government, anybody who goes into power in Nigeria, become, after a very short period of time, become extremely comfortable and live in luxury that they disconnect with the reality of the people that voted them in. I started watching your interview with Don Pedro, just a couple of minutes into the program. So I'm trying to tackle what I've heard from the beginning.
Thank you, sir. We got it. Thank you. Now, Don Pedro, we have just 1 minute or two left. Now, my question is: are you going to consider any national position, any national legislative or executive position to take on the challenge of the nation, or just the state?
By God's grace, by March this year, I will make a final decision. My friends have been pushing me, but I lost a lot of money with my own small savings. I've never been in government. The electoral process in Nigeria is too expensive. I lost a lot of money between 2015 and 2016, and I'm still recovering. So I don't have the kind of money Nigerians need to run for election. But I've been told by people, youth groups in my place, people are asking me to actually run for Senate. And the last meeting was just yesterday, and I keep telling them the same thing. If I hide, I will be joining to push the agenda of the evil ones. But if I come out, I don't have the kind of money they use to bamboozle our people. So by March, I've told myself God will talk to me, and I've been fasting since, and that fast will break on the 15th of March. Whatever God tells me on that day, I will do. If he says run, I will run. If I don't need godfathers to run, because God is my father. So a man who has God as his father, I don't need a godfather. I didn't get here by any government appointment. I've never been anywhere in government. But I'm comfortable. So if God says I run, I run. If he says no, I won't. But I will not keep quiet again. I've told myself in the last 3 years, I will not keep quiet again. Anybody who's going to be president of Nigeria in 2019 must listen and talk to me and talk to those I represent. You must talk to the people. The people must be the recurring decimal in 2019. Anything short of that will be a travesty, and we will not have it.
Don Pedro, you've done a great job today. Let me see how many people. I think right now, let me see how many. What was the number? We have. What was the figure? Yeah, we have about 8,000 people, 14,000 people coverage, 14,000 people reached, but that's almost 8,000 people watching. So thank you so very much, sir. We are going to get back to you. People want us to go do this in series and regularly, because I've met somebody of a like-minded person, especially when it comes to the church, the way your opinions about the church, about the youth, and all that. So it's because that's my own arena.
I don't run a risk. I'm not a pastor. You run a risk, you are a pastor. They will drive you.
Yeah, they're good. Thank you, sir. We'll see you later. And everybody else, we are going off. In 10 minutes' time, I'm coming back for another live video. 10 minutes' time, we are coming back. Thank you so much.